Alright, hi, so this is the video I'm doing for my latest troll level, for Luigi's Ill-Advised Adventure. So, I want to start by showing some of the tech I used in the level with, like, simpler, better setups that aren't in the actual level. So here's a flying hyperspeed cannon thing, and this is, as far as I know, the smallest and simplest setup for it.
Here we go.
So there's a frozen coin behind that fireball. You can see the cannon is stuck on, one of the cannons is stuck on the side of the other cannon, and then that one is stuck on the bottom of the muncher, and the muncher is sitting on top of the left cannon. So that means that even when it gets pushed off the semi-solid, it'll still float because no part of it can fall down. And then, because note blocks make stuff move really fast, it flies away at hyperspeed. And that's the concept behind one of the things I have in the level. But I didn't use this actual setup, because if you notice, this one sends it off at hyperspeed to the left. I have the exact same thing flipped right here.
Here we go.
And it does fly to the right, but it's not as fast, which is really weird. So the setup in the actual level is related to this, but it's able to go to the right at hyperspeed. Then there's this setup, which causes two launchers to get stacked on top of each other.
Here we go.
You can see the left one, it stacked them. This one didn't. So this is, like, there's a lot of ways to stack launchers. The common one is to have one on a conveyor with a note block above it that just pushes it into the other launcher. The advantage to this setup right here is that there's, like, if you only see the top part of it, you can't see any part of the setup.
Here we go.
Because there's no note blocks or anything up here. And I think this is a new setup. The way it works is that I have the burner here on tracks, and those can push things, and was a hidden block right there. The spike ball hits. And because the launcher gets pushed by the burner, so it's already like clipped into stuff, it won't die to the hidden block. And that's what's able to shove it into the other launcher. An interesting thing about this is that it's extremely similar to a setup from Mario Maker 1, where you'd have just the hidden, where you wouldn't need the burner, and instead of the spike ball, it's a shell and spring, but it did pretty much the same thing. And this one also is weird if you flip it horizontally. See this right side one, the launcher dies, even though it's like, it does the exact same thing, it just doesn't work. I have no idea why that is. And I have a variation on this for one of the trolls in the level. And finally, this thing. The Sledge Bro detector thing. So I know Wilfred used this in his level and showed it off.
Here we go.
So what's going on here is this guy is stuck on a spring, constantly bouncing, making an annoying noise. And if he's off screen, it won't throw hammers. So he's basically sitting there waiting to ground pound, but he doesn't have any space to do it because, like, in order to ground pound, he needs an area that's more than 2 blocks wide. So this is 2 blocks, and up there is 2 blocks, and he has to have a platform to stand on. So if I break one of these, see it, and it's like a 2 wide area for it to check. So like if I break one of those bricks, he still doesn't do anything. But as soon as I break that one, he ground pounds, and if you notice, the start of his ground pound animation involves him going up, which crushes the bomb into the slope and hits the switch instantly. So this can do a lot of interesting things. So right here, got another one.
Here we go.
Notice that's a 3 block gap, but the P-switch is solid, so he doesn't want to go there. But as soon as I pick it up, then it goes. We have another one right here. It's checking this area.
Here we go.
He won't pound because there's no platform in that area. It's just a pit. If if I trigger this, as soon as it gets to there, then it activates.
Here we go.
If I grab this, you know, took that one. And it also detects the P-switch, because when the P-switch is in midair, it's a platform. Like, it works with literally any platform going into this area to create a valid landing spot. This guy will detect it. And another thing to show with this is that the rules are kind of weird sometimes. See, you might think he would try to ground pound in this area with like the semi-solids, but this is a 2-block gap. This semi-solid here has another one right above it, so this isn't a valid spot. That's kind of weird. And down here also isn't a valid spot because of this semi-solid too above it. At least that's how I think it works. So he will only get triggered when I melt this coin at the bottom. So that's a fun setup. Now let's look at the actual level. Ill-advised adventure. I'm not using stupid in every level name anymore. Oh no, it's just gonna be synonyms. Alright. So first room, fish block. That's just this mole trigger. I have
Here we go.
this really weird tech right here. There's no hidden setup here except for the on and off switch. Like, that switch is hidden, but this setup is just what you can see in it. The muncher lands on the spring and goes over here and bounces up, which is really weird. And I also have this beetle, which is on a switch conveyor, so that, like, at first, see, it's over on the right. Then when the switch activates the first time, it'll be on the left in a place so you can't make it fall. Then you trigger the switch on the right, and he moves back over to here, and then when you jump over to these switch blocks, he'll hit this one, and then go over and hit the other one, so that you fall down. But that's not the only purpose to this room. It's also important for the hub trolls, because I don't know how many people noticed this, but both of the hub trolls, this Kaizo block and the fireball that drops on the left side, are deactivated the first time you enter that room. So part of that is this shell. So when you're in the first screen, the note block is like just behind this scroll stop, which means it's able to drop a spring. And it does this. This smiley face actually has a purpose of bouncing the shell up into that. And then there's one of these bombs comes down and blows up the block. And the other bomb blows up this block right here, so that the mole can't crush the clown car. Right, then we come into the hub room, or like the return hub room. All of these 1-ups have clouds behind them. Even this one has a cloud behind it. And notice that all of the places where you exit, that this door is fake, you never actually exit this door, and all of these other exit points are to the right of this spike ball. And that makes sure that this spike ball will always roll to the right and just run into the note block and not do anything when you come into the room. And that's important for one of the trolls at the ending. So then you get into the hub room, said the things are deactivated, and let's just go from left to right. So this section, the very first troll here is one that's not even really original. It has a cloud in it and you can't get it. It's not really a troll, but I need the cloud to come out of a note block for the next setup. Because the real first troll here is that when you do this, you go in the cloud, you have to hold right, and you see I went all the way into this box. I wasn't actually pressing right. Like, when you're in a cloud and the cloud came out of a note block, if you go into a twister and hold right as you get pushed up the twister, you get like a ton of momentum and it sucks you, and it like just keeps forcing you over to the side. That'll push you up this slope and into this coin box. The thing about this setup is that it's really jank and doesn't work half the time. And a lot of people don't even notice that it exists. But, you know, I just wanted to see if it would work. And it worked really well on a few people. A lot of people, like, just completely avoided this. So that's fine. And also this tech is from JoJo. He didn't use it. This claw with the 1-up is covering the track to put the mole at the top. And also I have this random little angled track here.
Here we go.
That's just so when the cloud comes down, or the donut comes down, it gets thrown away instead of being visible falling. So then right here, the troll with this cannon is that you're supposed to like see the spike ball come out and then try to hide in the top left, and then it just goes left and hits you. I think that worked on 1 or 2 people. And I was really surprised that this troll, the other troll with this cannon, didn't really work at all. Because if you pay attention, see, you're right here, you see that shoot out a spike ball, and then the cannon falls down the hole. And you follow the cannon down the hole, and there's a cannon right here. But then this one shoots out a mushroom. And the way that works is with this clown car and this thing. So what basically happens is this falls down, gets in the clown car, bounces off that spring, that's what the spring is for, bounces off the spring, pushes this prawn off the edge, and then the muncher pushes the clown car into the pit. And that's why like this little area with the saw was up here, just because I needed this ledge and I didn't want the player going up there, so I put a saw. Should be able to, this should work. Yeah, that's what happens. And also there's a cloud behind the top of this cannon. That's to prevent some weird spawn jank with these 2 items. Like if the cloud wasn't there, it would like spawn the clown car first or something, and then the cannons would stack on top of each other and you'd be soft locked. So that wasn't good. And then there's this troll at the end of the section. There's no hidden setup here. Basically the idea is that like you look at this and you think the blue platform is going to go to the right, which would block the pipe with the spring, so you jump up here. And then you hit that, and then this Kaizo block forces you to immediately bounce on the spring because it's half a block above it. And also, if you notice, the scroll stop wall here is made of breakable blocks, which is, they never actually break or do anything. The reason I did that is because it makes the ground tiling in the hub room different, to make it match the fake hub room. And just having a random breakable wall, you know, you have no idea it's next to that, so it solves the problem. And they have to be next to each other because of space. Well, not really, but I didn't want to move it. And you come out here. I had to reuse this exit pipe for the end of the section because in the subworld I actually ran out of doors. So you come out this pipe and then go in this pipe, which is the end of another section. And I have this arrangement of scroll stops. I got one on the right and also this one on the left. And because you come out the pipe closer to the left one, it connects there. And you see this thing over here with the high.
Here we go.
And if you never watched the 1-up come down, H. You know H. It's great. And the other time you come there, you won't see the high at all. And you go in here, and it's back. So then this section, section 2. I'm actually really happy with the first troll here because there isn't much hidden setup. It's just this POW and launcher and the spike ball. because like the idea behind this is that you see this suspicious thing with all the blue platforms and the seesaw, and you're like, oh, there's gonna be some kind of conveyors or blocks hidden behind that, and there's just nothing, and the seesaw does stuff with what you can see and pushes that into you. And then the POW exists to counterbalance the other POW so that you can weigh down the seesaw enough. And it also comes down here and hits the spike ball to get hit and kill the piranha. And the reason this is a launcher is because that's what the seesaw gets stuck under, so that you can't actually get the spike helmet at all. And I have this weird thing with the 2 one-ways and the muncher, which is for the next troll, which is this setup here. So this is like a words hyperspeed. Another thing that Wilfred showed, actually. See, that clips the clown car into that launcher, and then as soon as the switch activates, it will... The launcher gets into the clown car and then goes up to like be in it properly, so that's why it goes hyperspeed. The interesting thing is with this little mole trigger, see, I'm to the right of it right now and at the beginning of the section, but it hasn't triggered yet, even though that's usually what does it. If I go to the left side and then back, then it triggers. And that's just the thing about how these setups work in, I think only in certain game styles like SMB3 and SMB1, they do that. And that's why these one-ways and muncher is here, so that you can't trigger it early. So then down here, this setup, that launcher is just you can't go through the section twice. The coin is a frozen coin because these can only attach to the bottom of solid blocks, so I need a frozen coin. And I have the fireball come out of a note block like that, so that it stays down here at the bottom instead of having to like catch it or have it still be there. And the point of this troll is that if you go where the arrow and coin are, that kills you instantly. And it's like, you're like, oh, it's gonna go down and left and bounce up at you, but it just kills you instantly. Okay, the last setup of this room is one of the more complicated ones. I'm gonna start from the beginning of the section to show something with it. You die to the muncher.
Here we go.
That happens. Kill that, jump over this. Don't need that. Grab this. So if I come over here and I investigate this, see, nothing actually happens. There's no effect. But then, when I bring the POW up, if you go investigate this without the POW, it does nothing, and then if you bring the POW up, it does that and traps you in. I don't know if that, like, test if you needed the POW even did much in the end, but it's nice to have that little safety in there. Alright, so the way I'm checking for the POW is with this over here. So this is the setup where a spring falls on a shell. If there's a item like a POW above it, it goes one way. If there isn't, it goes the other way. So in this case, if you have the POW up on this ledge, it'll go to the right, hit that hidden block. If you don't have the POW, it won't hit the hidden block, and this one way is to keep the shell going where I need it to go. Then up here, I have a hidden block detector, so that that bomb will blow up as soon as you hit a hidden block, which allows that beetle to go to the side, so that's in an area where it'll trigger, and it's activated when you go in any of these two spaces. Jumping at the door. So that triggers a switch, and then down here is another setup. So what this does is this coin basically pushes one of the munchers into the other muncher.
Here we go.
See, that stacks the two munchers, and now they're like, and the launcher is also moved to the side a little bit. So basically what happens is that the bomb will already be blown up. Like, when this switch activates, makes this bomb not... It makes this block solid and blows up the bomb, destroying those, and then the block turns off, and one of the munchers... I'll just try to show this happening.
Here we go.
See that? It triggers. Very good video making here. Just put a switch.
Here we go.
So those are cooked inside of each other. When I hit this, it gets ejected out like that. So I have to switch that because of the switch state that's going on. I inverted the switch state, so I have to change that. So see, they're inside of each other with a switch block, and that's how it will be set up in the actual level. When I hit this, see, because it's on the conveyors, one gets ejected out to the side from being inside of each other, and then this POW over here is at the right distance to kill only the closer muncher and not the far one, so that the conveyor is able to push it back. And that's because I needed just a hyperspeed over to the left really fast and then just come back pretty fast, but at really any speed, and that traps you in the POW. I also needed this one way behind the door to actually get you stuck in the POW, because otherwise you just end up on top of it. That's how that works. And then you come out here and see that uses the left door, and this is the fake set of doors, and this uses the left door, but it's in the other hub room. And it comes to here, the wiggler booty blast setup. That wiggler, just on this exact arrangement of the conveyors and stuff, for some reason the wiggler does that. I don't know why, but it's useful for booty blast things. And that's why these breakable blocks are here, just so you can get back to the section. I also have the safety coin like visible from the top, and there's a fake second safety coin to make the fake hub more convincing, because you're like, oh, it has to be real because the safety coin is here. And that worked out really nicely because there's also a pipe that doesn't go to an actual section, so it's like, you would need an extra coin to make that convincing, and this second coin in this section does that. So it worked out very nicely. And here's the fake pipe. Yeah, it's fun. Back to here, and then the doors. The first door, the left door, that's this room. Very sprite heavy thing right here. So in this spot there's actually two clown cars there, one that's empty and one that has a POW in it, and the thwomp and the other thing. You can kind of see what this other launcher does. It just falls. Once this happens, the top launcher falls and crushes the clown car to kill it. But the reason there's two clown cars, if this one didn't exist,
Here we go.
see, it just kills that. It doesn't get into it, but with the second clown car, so it's actually, so it's not getting into the clown car that has the POW in it, it's getting into this one and just destroying the POW. Now it also hits this, which releases the fireball to allow this other POW to do the thing. The way this flying setup works is first, so this POW here is not really necessary. It's just to break the setup if you come in the room a second time. So it's a frozen coin. get this stuck on the ceiling. This other piranha isn't part of the setup, it just is there, so be like, so you can't go down there, it's just a piranha. I have this thing again, where the fireball comes out. This spike ball needs to be on the other side. When you come out of the, it always goes towards you. Spike balls go towards you when you come out of like doors and stuff, so it's on the other side. So I have to move it in editor.
Here we go.
So when this happens, you see that flying setup. So that's just because this POW gets pushed by the conveyor onto this, and then all these things are stuck together and it flies up. It's a similar concept to what I said with the like flying cannon thing, except that it's a POW bouncing on the piranha, which is holding up the muncher, which is in turn the like piranha is stuck on the muncher, and it's just like this interaction
Here we go.
where it just bounces on top of a piranha plant like that is what's causing it to fly up. And also this stuff up here is supposed to be like, oh, if I trigger the POW, it's gonna hit those note blocks and drop stuff on me. And you might notice that, fun fact, that setup is actually real. There's not really a reason for it to be real, but it is. So here's where I used the cannon stacking thing. So the goal with this setup was I wanted 2 cannons layered on top of each other in such a way that you couldn't see, such a way that you couldn't see any part of the setup, so you would have no idea that the cannons are stacked until you put the POW down here and trigger it to go off. Originally, when I was messing with this, I actually did use the note block version. I actually did use a note block, and then I had like a magic Koopa destroyed, and it sucked. But then I figured out the hidden block tech that I showed before, and this works. So there's this, behind there's a spring, and then there's these. There's the hidden blocks there, and this burner.
Here we go.
So that's how it works. And I need this block here, which will get destroyed later. It needs to exist because if it's not there, they won't stack into each other, it'll just get pushed to the side. And also, this troll up here with the piranha is not even really meant to be a troll, it's just because I wanted the hidden blocks to do something else for reasons. Then we have this thing, it's like, hey, you need the POW, so then you get the POW, and this is a setup that a lot of people were confused by, like, how does that work? It's the Sledge bro detector, and this is a way to hit the switch again, and it also uses the fact that when a POW goes into a twister, like, when you throw a POW, it has that state where it'll, as soon as it hits something, it breaks and goes off, but if it goes in a twister, it loses that state, so then it'll just fall down here and block you, and it lands perfectly in between those 2 spaces. I got kind of lucky on that working. And also this thwomp is on 2 boss enemies. These don't count as sprites, and they're just aligning him to be, like, not lined up with the blocks the way it normally is. And I also have a hint here that some people didn't see or found confusing. Is a drop. There's like a drop indicator behind the thwomp, which means drop the POW in the pit. Because the actual intended solution here is just to drop the POW into the pit, which will trigger the Sledge Bro setup and kill it for you. There are other ways to dodge this that people figured out, but I didn't really care that much because I thought my idea was that, like, the POW blocking you is funnier than the other things I could do with this setup. So and after this is basically the end of the section. You, like, there's the fish, but that's it. You'd only have to do it once or twice, and there's whatever way you figured out to get past this is fine. I had this hidden block on Vine to de-cheese the POW, so you can't take it if you did it in some other way. Alright, come through there. Or need to leave. Use the right door section. So the first thing in this section is a nothing troll. It's just a spring that pushes you to the place you need to go anyway. That's just because I needed a launcher or something here that would trigger the P-switch. So I just have a launcher that spits a spring for no real reason. And you fall down here and there's like 4 launchers and there's this hint over here and there's this. This is just an icicle behind the clown car. The clown car comes out of a block to line it up with with 1 block instead of being across 2 to cover the icicle. This launcher is another thing, so if you come back in the room, you can't do it. This hint,
Here we go.
when you actually are in here the first time, there's like this hint actually has a bomb inside of it and the coin behind that and the beetle. The way that works is that behind these launchers I have this winged hidden block. This has wings, I guess. It has the bomb in it, and I have this spike ball which hits it, which releases the bomb up into that little space. And then the spike ball just breaks on this, and yeah. And then, so you would see the hint, not notice that you might die to the clown carved icicle thing, and you come over here. This is just a winged beetle on 2 Goombas that falls behind this. And the idea with this troll is that they can try to bounce on it and get out, so you just walk off the edge and die. And what triggers this is they have a thwomp, hits this block, which hits this up, which blows up the bomb at the top, which does this. I wanted to specifically not use switch state for this thing, like not use switch state or P-switch state for whatever happened over here, so I have this weird, complicated setup to drop the beetle down. So you get that, and while that's going on, there's this fireball which flies over here and melts these coins. And then the launchers aren't sitting on the frozen coins anymore, they're on a blue platform. And blue platforms are low enough so that you can finally trigger that skull platform and get shoved into the icicle. And then this top block P-switch blows up this bomb that was here from earlier. And then to avoid that, you have to like go here, throw this, then back up, and you go forward again. And when you go forward again, you spawn this thwomp. And this thwomp immediately hits the seesaw up, throwing the spring up, pushes this up. A bone shell and a clown car is able to like pull you down through a semi-solid when there's one ways there. Well, I think it can no matter what, but the one ways force you to get stuck under it. Like, and that's tech that's been used a lot of times, that the bone shell and clown car does that. So just have that get pushed up into you, it bounces over here, goes in the switch blocks. And then I have, these are also spawn blocked by P blocks. Spring hits the shell, hits the switch, and spawns a bunch of booster. It's pretty self-explanatory for that setup. Through again. And this pipe is fake. Yeah, it's a fake pipe, and the hidden block makes you go in the pipe and you die again. It's very funny. And then this is just, if you try to go in that pipe you die. Great. This section, this is the this was a section, probably the hardest This was the hardest to get working because I did the most changes on it over the revisions. So the first troll here is basically about the fact that a winged Putaboo, when it comes out of a block, will go towards you. So if you stand here, it comes towards you and just melts the coins and kills you. If you stand up here, it goes in this little space and gets stuck forever because of the weird shape of the slopes. Kind of fun. Then you come over here. This troll is like pick a shellmet, kind of, but with the layer that the shellmet flies at you. And also, there's something that I don't know if many people realize this. Some people did, but when you're here, if you don't want to get the spike helmet, Bowser died. If you like hesitate on getting the spike helmet, you can see over here in the upper right corner, you can see that little bit of a hint. It's like, hey, you need that kind of shellmet. So if you come over here and get that kind of shellmet, it turns out you needed the other one, and the hint is destroyed by a spike ball. That's what that is. So then you come down here. This area here was really annoying to build in because of the setup at the end of this. All of this stuff has to be either like semi-solids, or nothing here can be a solid object once the switch goes off. So that made building all this difficult. I have a launcher here. I've got like a muncher that dies, a piranha, icicles, semi-solids. These launchers all die. So, and this was the last troll that I made, was this thing with the POW, and it has not worked like at all, which I'm kind of sad about because I thought it was pretty decent. Apparently not. So what happens, you can see that fire bar and it pushes that over, and you can see the saw. Look, you can see the saw right here. Visible saw. So what you're supposed to think is you're supposed to see that saw and see these slippery things and see that 50 coin and be like, oh, I'm gonna bounce off that saw and go to the left. So you hold right and do that. But no one saw it. No one has fallen for this troll yet. Which is not terrible. Like, yeah, I'm disappointed that people aren't falling for this troll or even understanding it at all, but it's not super important to the level. And because I'm not great at building setups, apparently, this is a little jank too, because sometimes if you go fast here and jump into this, the saw will hit you and bounce you into the coin, which is like, it's janky, but I left it in because I'm honestly fine with jank if it leads to funnier results in the end. And then what happens is, so you hit that, hits the hidden block, and because I have to destroy everything, the POW also triggers these coins, which release like a spike ball and a thing, spring and a spike ball to bounce that over here, hit the hidden block and destroy it to get that out of the way. You come back, you jump off the spring and hit these and break it with the helmet. And then when you jump all the way up towards the pipe, you can't actually touch the pipe. But the screen goes high enough for this to release a spike ball. That spike ball hits this switch and that triggers the Bowser thing. The Bowser thing is fun. Oh, and this setup is also a bit jank, because this silent note block hitting star, it's like hitting the note block repeatedly, but it's not always spawning something. So if you just jump off the spring and hit your head on the ceiling to like break the blocks the first time, sometimes it will trigger and sometimes it won't, and it's inconsistent. But when you jump all the way up, it's there for long enough to like guarantee that it will trigger. So I also left that janky thing in because if it triggers early the second time and you die to the Bowser again, that's fine. That's fun. So here's the flying setup. And there's a lot going on with this. It's very complicated. So first I'm just gonna get rid of the Bowser. Bowser has a parachute on him. And like something in a parachute on a twister, it won't do anything. It'll just like he won't spit fire, he won't jump around, won't do anything because he's in a parachute. Need you back.
Here we go.
And also that Bowser sprite is my profile picture on YouTube, and it used to be on Discord, but you know, who cares? So that's me. Hello, get out of here. I have these switch blocks to hold it in, and then I also have this launcher here and this cannon are more pieces to hold in the guy. Like it's there on the twister, being held in by these switch blocks at first, and then when it starts moving, it's held in by that cannon that's the ceiling. So we can get rid of those now because they're we showed what they are. Just simplifying the setup as I go. Then I have this boom boom on a boo. And what that does is that boom boom is a boss enemy, so boom boom is permanently loaded. He's like global. So if a global thing is stacked with other stuff, that other stuff becomes global. And if something is sitting on top of global stuff, like the launcher and the cannon were, that also becomes global. And cannons that are stuck to that also become global. So because of this boom boom and boo, everything here is global. And Bowser is too because he's another boss enemy. So this entire thing is globally loaded. Get this out of here. 1-ups are 2. All power-ups are. Get rid of that. And the most basic version of this setup. So then it's just this down here, which is see 2 launchers. They're stuck to 2 cannons stuck to this frozen coin.
Here we go.
The coin is melted, it's stuck to the POW, POW moves over, it's stuck to the other cannon. We have that thing again where the muncher is on the cannon, which is on the other cannon, which is on the muncher. So they're all held up by each other because that's how physics works in the game.
Here we go.
The fire bar there melts both of the frozen coins. So this is like just stable here, and then when this melt block gets triggered, it goes really fast to the right. And so that's that section. Destroyed it to show what it does. Yay. So then you go in the door here, which is revealed. And then, you'd go back through, you'd go in the key door, and go in that pipe. Something else to show is you have a really stupid troll at the end. So when you respawn from this, so when you go in the key door, you obviously are gonna die to something before you get the goal. And you'll respawn here and get a key, and then that spike ball rolls the other way, like you saw it. So now suddenly, there's no platform there, because spike balls destroy clouds.
Here we go.
And when you spawn from a checkpoint, all spike balls go to the left, even if they're behind you, which is very weird. It's basically like spawning an editor.
Here we go.
So that's how this goes the other way, breaks that cloud, and you fall in. And use the same thing for this spike ball at the top, which is what gives you the key. You can actually just see this setup. It's not hidden well. I wasn't trying to hide it well. It's just dumb, but I didn't care about macro trolls for this level, so just a dumb thing to make sure you had an extra checkpoint for the ending. this spot. The pipe has a mole in it. For here, this entire track that goes across the entire screen for no reason. It just exists for this burner to push the swamp off screen. Let's see, the conveyors that move that over just slightly, and the goal hides the semi-solid. This is like a known thing, but it is still really strange that they made the goal like go in front of semi-solids and you can just stand like this. That's just the game. And we got this stuff to stack the track thing. And the only real setup here is that when you hit these hidden blocks, you have another hidden block detector here. And this is actually a better hidden block detector.
Here we go.
For some reason that guy is able to spawn. And he just goes inside of the block. So it's the same concept of like, it's like a known thing. It's like if it's inside the hidden block and you hit another one, it blows up. And that just drops this cannon on the P switch to open these up just before the fireballs hit you. Blah blah. I'm assuming you've seen or played the level, so that's how that works. And I think that is pretty much everything in this. Actually, I do kind of want to show one other thing. So that was the level. But this here is something closer to version 1 of the level. I think it's not actual version 1, but there's differences. So first of all, this section looks a bit changed. So in the final version, this claw with the 1-up doesn't really do anything besides hide the track. But in the original version, you'd come out over here, and there was this dumb shiny troll where it's like, oh, I want that coin. Oh, look at that, you don't get the coin and you also don't get the 1-up, haha, get wrecked. I don't know, it was kind of funny. And what changed with this is that this thing is different. See, when you're here, you can see over there, and you can see there's nothing over there. And then this stuff is spawn blocked. When you go to the left, you'd come back. This stuff would spawn and the setup would work. And so what I mentioned before, where I needed the cloud right here to prevent spawn jank. In the first version, there was spawn jank and people soft-locked, and it was a bad time. So I just moved the pipe over so you couldn't see it, and you know. The only really big change to the level was this section. Yeah, this looks completely different. So what was wrong with this was everything. Just show how this used to play out. So you do this, you throw that there, it does that, you go here, you do this, you get that. Now see, there's this pile there. Yeah, there's a pile behind it. Cool. Oh great, yeah, see that? And then you throw this, and that triggers, and then, yeah. So everything bad. And like, all of the things you might think would go wrong with this did. It was spaghetti to grab the POW, the thing bouncing the muncher that I didn't fix was kind of bad. This setup is like a POW trigger detector when the muncher dies. And it is a decent setup because it's like instant, but you know, it was still a problem. And the biggest issue, the reason I ended up changing it, was because of this setup with the winged POWs, with the winged stuff, you would have to do this top part fast. there was no other way to get the POW unless you did this top part fast. People went slow, and if you go slow, you can't even see the POW, so you don't even know you need to go fast. And it's just a bad time. So what I eventually did was I had like a tracked muncher go along here and take a long time, go here and block you if you didn't go fast, but that was dumb and bad. It technically fixed the problem, but it was still not great. So I just swapped out the troll entirely. But the setup for this is kind of interesting because the idea is that you need to stack. I have like stacking the blocks on tracks which contain the POW and spring, and then you hit those, it spawns this stuff. Then I had to destroy all of the setup to get it out of the way, and then POW and spring would fly over here and you'd catch it and get trolled by it and stuff would happen. So to do that, I actually used this shell from the first troll.
Here we go.
So if I throw the shell, hits that, hits this, boom, and spawns a spike ball which destroys those. That's a pretty fun setup. But yeah, this was just a bad time for everyone. And even like the fact that just throwing the POW triggers the Bowser and then you have to go in the door that you can already see, it means that you could easily avoid that troll if you wanted to go fast. But then in the final version, even if you try to go fast in the pipe, you can't go in the pipe. You get hit. Troll. And I got lull down here because of how I do the saving. So that's the level. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to show from that.